New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev Briz and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And hello again, dear ones. This is Reverend Robert hanging out, hiding behind the banner here. There we are.
Rev Z right here.
This is Ministers Talking Shit for Friday, the 24th of March. Glad you're with us. Good to see you here this morning. Brother Wayne, glad you're here. Dear Linda,
yeah,
always good to see you. Good Friday morning as well. And Z, good to see you. It's seems like it's been a minute or a few weeks since we've been together on this program. So we're back on a Friday together. I've got my my official Ministers Talking Shit mug here as well.
Yes.
My tea this morning. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I was gallivanting, as some might say, at a I had a memorial service in Florida and came back to a work conference, and but now I'm back in the saddle, and spring is definitely in the air here in Colorado, so I'm enjoying that.
Oh my, yes.
And
there
so
is a rule here, folks. We all know it. You don't put anything in the ground until after Mother's Day. And you make sure they're hardy enough, because if you're going to do any gardening, because there is always the Father's Day storm, which could be snow. So I often don't put anything in the ground until Father's Day, actually. Yeah, spring is definitely in the air. And with that, our hearts and prayers go out to everybody that's being affected in California. They are definitely seeing, a coastal state on the coast of a big, huge ocean, and they're seeing the effects of climate change this year more than any other year. I think you've been following this story maybe a little more than I have, Z. What do you know?
Oh man, it's been, they talk about May showers. I can't even imagine if it's still raining during May in California. It is actually going to break off. I mean, they've been getting hit. I mean, they had a tornado in Los Angeles County the other day.
Yeah.
And, up in the mountain areas, Bear Lake and places like that, even up in Los Angeles, up in Sierras. I mean, some of these people have gotten like over 90 inches of snow.
Yeah.
They had to call the Army Corps engineers to get some of them out. I mean, there's flooding everywhere, and it's been, as with everything, right? There's a polarity in the universe, right? So obviously people are hurting from the flooding and the snow, but the reservoirs now are almost 70 to 75, 80% filled now.
Yep. The
And
Oroville spillway was opened the other day. I believe it's the first time since the disaster, which was 2017, 18, something like that. So they opened that spillway for the first time, and more.
And so, yeah, it's. I mean, that's the cycle of life, if you will. However, it can be and often is a traumatic change, and that's what we're seeing now. We, as you said, we continue to pray and send whatever we can, energy, money, go and help, whatever we can to our residents in California.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting spring, I think. Everywhere from the Rockies west, they're having record-breaking years. Colorado, The storm that was supposed to hit the mountains last night was going to push us over a 30-year record. I know Utah is seeing more snow than they've ever seen. If you get a chance, folks, there's actually in Utah, there's a reservoir called Gunlock Reservoir. And they designed this reservoir so the spillway is actually it's natural bedrock. So it looks like a huge multi-faceted waterfall when the spillway is open.
Wow.
And the spillway is open right now. So I've been seeing some pictures of it and some video of it. If you get a chance, just do a search for Gunlock Reservoir, Utah. You should find some pictures. It's beautiful and gorgeous. It's not just like a normal dam spillway, but and I've seen pictures from Big Bear Lake, California. The ski lift, the ski mountain, the ski resort there. The lift is literally buried, almost up to the cable. They've had to dig trenches.
It's crazy
for the ski lift to run. Yeah. So people are actually skiing just about or higher than the chairlift itself. So their ski lifts have become surface lifts there in Big Bear Lake, California. It's going to be a wild spring when all this snow starts melting. So here's what we're praying for. We're praying for a mild and progressive spring. We don't want it to get too hot too quick. We don't want too much rain too quick. We kind of want things to mellow out and a nice, easy, mild spring for the Western U.S. Because if all that water comes down at once, all that snow melts out at once, it's going to be a mess. Yeah. So there's one of the places we can add our prayer work is for Mother Nature to provide a nice, gentle and easy, progressive melt off this year for the Western U.S. especially.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Fiona. Glad to know you're with us all the way over from Geneva, where it's about 2:00 there in the afternoon, if I have my time zones right. The fun part about working in a global ministry, folks, is we change our clocks here in the U.S., but not everywhere else does, or at least not at the same time.
Right.
There's always a few weeks out of each change where I'm a little confused as to exactly what time it is for anybody, but we try to do our best. So, all right, what else is in the news?
Well, there was a school strike, custodians and so forth in LA County. Striking for a livable wage. Now, I don't know what it was before, but the numbers they were throwing around was like $25,000. And I'm thinking, where's that? That's a livable wage for a high school student, maybe, but not for a parent.
Not for a parent. That's only 50,000. That's 50,000 a year if both of your teachers.
Yeah. But no, this wasn't even for the teachers. This was for the workers, the custodians and groundskeepers and stuff like that, who work really hard probably. And I mean, just the thought that out of all of the educational woes we've had with the COVID and studying from home and all of that, we should be paying teachers and anyone who's involved with education as much as we can without breaking the bank, so that we can get our educational system back on track, to get our schools back on track, and to get our kids back on track.
Right.
We've had so many issues this year with students, and we got, we'll talk about the situation here in Colorado in a minute. But I went to a high school basketball game at my son's old high school and was talking with the principal and asked him how things were going since we're back. And he said, they're getting better. He says, but one thing that happened during the pandemic, because kids was on the social media, they got all kind of beef. They got all kind of jacked up on social media. And then when they came back to school to see each other, it went from just messing with somebody on social media to messing with somebody for real, right? And all kind of fights and all these kinds of things. And so, every aspect of that educational system now has been twisted and turned and jacked up, and we gotta get that back in line.
Right. Well, we do need to get things back in line. Interestingly enough, the state of Utah did something yesterday that I didn't know you could do. And I don't know how they're going to do it. But the governor signed a law in Utah yesterday requiring parental approval for anyone under the age of 18 to sign up for a social media network. Now,
Wow.
I lived in Utah long enough to know that this is all about control for them. This isn't about helping kids. This is in some way about control, or maybe extorting the media companies for something. I don't know. Did I just accuse the Utah governor of extortion? Maybe I did. But point being, how in the world could you even begin to police this?
Yeah.
I mean, now am I going to have to go online and check a box that says I checked my kid's phone today and no, they don't have TikTok or Facebook or anything? How do you really enforce something of this nature? Or is it all just lip service saying, oh yeah, we're going to do something to protect the kids? I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know from a spiritual perspective, life is about choice. And so until we give these kids or adults or anybody better opportunities or better things to choose out of the thousands or hundreds of millions of things they can choose from, we're going to be fighting this battle, and we're going to be fighting a losing battle, because there's the peer pressure, and there's the all of the other things of that vein that will drive children and adults to these social media platforms because of some something. I don't even want to go down. There's so many different ways why, but we have to begin to offer better opportunities and better choices for our adults and young people to choose, other than to spend hours on social media.
And I have to believe that's part of what was going on in Washington, D.C. yesterday. I have to believe that at heart, our legislators are looking at how do we support our kids in not falling into some of these traps. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, folks, there was a big hearing on Capitol Hill yesterday. The CEO of TikTok was being grilled unmercifully by our legislators, and it's a big question right now, because we now do have proof that these platforms are addictive to younger teens. We do have some proof through Facebook that they know Instagram is not a healthy platform, especially for young females. So we're in this world of the fear of missing out. So I have to be there. And more, what I see is media outlets, that they don't do their own research. They don't do their own news. They're not doing any real stories. They're just reporting on what's the latest thing on TikTok. And it started with Twitter. I started seeing it. You'd find an article somewhere. Oh, that looks interesting. And then you'd find out that all it is somebody reporting on a tweet conversation, on a Twitter conversation where people are tweeting back, and they would show you the tweets, and then they'd add a little commentary. It's worthless. It's absolutely, it's not entertaining. It's not informative. It doesn't help me make an opinion. It doesn't help me understand the issue. It's clickbait.
Yeah. And think about, a child, a teenager who's spending 3, 4, 5 hours on these social media platforms. Now, there's only 24 hours in a day. If they're spending 4, 5, 6 hours on TikTok, there's only 19, 18 hours to go to school, which is going to be about 8 hours, and eat and go to sleep. It's like, okay, the whole thing is going to be off.
If you're like most teenagers, your kids sleeping 10 or 12 hours a day too, right? Teenagers they sleep a lot. They got to store up that energy. So again,
how do you fix it?
I don't know that banning TikTok is the answer. because that's just a slippery slope of one after another after another. And yeah, there's some justification that perhaps China is spying on us with TikTok, but let's be real, folks. If China wants our information, they can go to Facebook and buy it. They can go to anywhere and buy it.
Mm-hmm.
These big tech companies have been harvesting our data for decades now.
Decades.
I remember when Hulu was free. Anybody else out there remember when Hulu was free? When it was it was the kind of the underground, quiet, don't tell anybody there's this thing called Hulu. You can watch TV programs for free. But we knew back then they were harvesting information and harvesting our data. And that's how they made it free.
Mm-hmm.
And if you actually read your terms and conditions, you would know that they were selling your data and your information and going to serve you ads. And, every time we get into this, I'm reminded that Adam and Eve were the first people that didn't read the terms of condition, their Apple terms and conditions. And nobody since then has either.
I was going to say, I would like to find who has read the terms and condition of every app that they have on their phone, and I bet you I'm finding zero.
Yeah. Oh God, I'd still be reading. Plus, my eyes would be tired because they make that print awful small.
Awful small.
Like, all right, I'm up to 300% in zoom in, and I still can barely read these things. Folks, we try to have some fun with this, but I do believe this is an important aspect of where we go in the future and how New Thought as a philosophy, as a spiritual tradition, as a belief system, as a way of life can support us in, more critical thinking, looking beyond just, oh, this is what somebody did on TikTok. And I don't know, man, we did some dumb stuff when we were kids, but we never tried to eat laundry detergent. We never tried to swallow a whole teaspoon of cinnamon at one time. We never tried. Yeah, well, we might have tried to see how many milk crates we could stack up, but there's just so many things that our kids are being exposed to, and there isn't time to think critically in this environment. In the 6-second soundbite, there's no time to consider, is this person really sharing what they're sharing in the best interest of everyone? Or is this just some con man trying to take my money?
And now with the deep fakes, you have to begin to ask yourself, did this really happen? I mean, is this a deep fake or did somebody really do this?
Exactly. Some great deep fakes emerged this week, folks. If you haven't been following, former President Donald Trump is rumored to be indicted in New York State. And he's even himself suggested that he was going to be arrested this past Tuesday. Now, that didn't happen. The indictment has actually, for some mysterious reason, been put on pause for most of the week. That grand jury has been on pause for most of the week, however, I should say. However, what did emerge is a series of really good deep fakes of Donald Trump being arrested and resisting arrest at the hands of what looked like New York City police officers. Now, I think we're all smart enough to know that he ain't going anywhere near New York State unless they take him there in a jumpsuit. He's smart enough not to go back to New York State at this point. They want his ass. But if you're not taking a moment, if you're just scrolling by, it's real easy to go, yeah, share, they got him. And now we're sharing the lies. We're part of the problem.
Right. And God forbid somebody gets excited or ignited, if you will, by that stuff and go out and commit whatever's based on that, and it's all a lie.
Right.
And right now we're just talking about regular social media apps and news. We haven't even begun to know the AI stuff that's going to start creeping into here more and more and be getting more. If they can do deep fakes to to mimic voice and images and everything, body mannerisms. When AI grows up, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
you know, I don't even know what to tell you.
Google released Bard this week. That's their that's their newest AI client. I guess I was early enough that I still can't get into Chat GPT. They say it's full, and I was too late to sign up. But we'll see about that. Maybe it was just one of the companies that's using OpenAI, but the Bard opened up, and yeah, I just played around a little bit, and it's a little okay. Now the good news was I asked Bard to write a spiritual mind treatment in the style of Ernest Holmes.
Ooh.
And it came back and told me it can't do that yet.
Interesting.
Now it could write me a blog article. When I asked it to write a blog article explaining spiritual mind treatment, it did a pretty darn good job there. Messed up the names of all the steps, but it did a pretty good job on the theory of it. So this is the place where it's going to be very interesting to see how AIs proliferate and what we allow to continue.
Right.
Because there are some stories of AIs from a few years ago. One of the famous ones, as I think it was Microsoft, they turned on this one AI and it became a raving Nazi within about 3 hours.
Wow.
Because that's what it was finding on the internet.
Right.
Let's be real. These are not critical thinking beings yet, folks. They're very fast aggregates. They compile everything they can find from the internet in just a moment or two, and then create something. How valid it is and how authentic true it is a whole nother story.
Right. And now imagine what's going to happen, as they get smarter. Now they've already developed some AI detectors, if you will, to detect if kids are writing turn papers, or they have ways now of detecting that. And because it's all tech, they'll go lockstep. But somebody's going to hit the sweet spot where it's like it's going to be very hard to tell. Right. And there are some legitimate reasons or value to the AI stuff, because it is an aggregate. You could ask it for an outline of something. Give me an outline of Roman history, right? Because we know schools are not always teaching all of the history. We can just look at that with all the African American history that we're having problems with trying to get AP classes for, right? So it will be able to give you an aggregate of events, but that could be a good thing if people can now go do their own research and fill in those gaps, right? And with real verifiable photos and clips and whatever they need to do an amazing job of presenting history or an event in a more total way. But again, there has to be a spiritual mind that's looking to tell the story as it is, so that people can have a real understanding and be able to choose, which is what we started with back in the beginning. Choose between what is right or not so true based on critical thinking.
Yeah. Yes. It's going to be a wild decade. We're going to say good morning to Tina real quick, watching over on our YouTube channel. Thank you, Tina, for tuning in this morning. Please do like, share, and subscribe. Let your friends know what we're doing. And folks, if you're out there watching, please do check out our YouTube channel. We're real close to a major goal that we're trying to reach over there, and we would love your support checking out what we're doing, and watch a couple hours of YouTube for us. Help us increase our hourly watch time, as it were. All right. So Z, here's the leading story, and probably the most heartbreaking story I've heard this week. Once again, our schools and our youth are at the center of a terrible story involving guns.
Yeah.
A young man, Lyle Austin, and this is a very complex story, folks. Committed suicide yesterday at his own hand with a gun. It follows him shooting 2 administrators at East High School. This is the first shooting inside East High School this year here in Denver. However, it is the second shooting on school campus. It was a shooting in the parking lot just a couple months ago. We reported about that here on this program, and this one's got all the failings that I can see. Z, young black man, under what they call the safety plan, which means he had to be patted down every day on his way into school for weapons. And that is because of bringing a weapon to Cherry Creek High School District High School last year. He was expelled from the Cherry Creek District because of potentially violent behavior and disruptive behavior throughout the year last year, and again bringing a weapon to school. He was charged last year with possession of a dangerous weapon, being a gun. Nobody has used the term mental health just yet in this story officially, but it's got all the trappings of a young man battling with mental health issues, or perhaps identity issues. We don't know. Perhaps gun or perhaps gang issues. We don't know. But the end result is 2 school administrators are injured and in the hospital. He's no longer with us. His family is grieving. I'm sure other families are grieving this young man as well. And once again, we got a kid with a gun. We've got to figure out how we can keep these weapons out of these kids' hands. Now, those that watch this program know that I'm all for, let's just get rid of them. Let's do what Japan did. Let's do what Australia has done. Let's just get rid of guns. The Second Amendment needs to be repealed or overwritten or something. That's my opinion. However, recognizing how unlikely that may be here in the United States, and I don't really feel like moving to Australia, we're going to have to come up with some other alternatives and some other ideas. And I don't know if you've got any that are going to work or not, Z, but we've got to start trying some stuff to get these guns out of these kids' hands.
Yeah. And I guess first and foremost, man, like you said, we're sending prayers and energy and actions. We got to start doing some actions about these things to all of the families and friends that are involved. I mean, we're talking about a 17-year-old kid. Now, for those of us of any age, you think back to where your brain was and where your behavior was at 17. How much did you knowing what you know now, how much did you really know at 17?
Right.
How tapped in, tuned in, and turned on to life were you at 17? All aspects. Okay, there's certain aspects, chasing girls or chasing guys and those kinds of things. You tune in it in because that's when that maturity cycle happens. But when you look at the totality of life as you are now, 17-year-olds don't know enough, in my opinion, to be in that space of taking a life, and definitely in your own life. And so we have to begin to really try to help these kids. I mean, here's what this principal was telling me. I'm sure that kid was on social media. He may have been bullied. We don't know. But he may have felt that he wasn't part of the in crowd as he looked at all of the people doing deep fakes of what going to this party, hanging out with this girl, doing these types of things. And so we do understand that the mind is very malleable at that age, and images and sounds and these things, impressions are very forming in the brain of these young people. And if they get on a wrong track and they're watching this stuff 5-6 hours a day, and it's the same message over and over again, we know, for those of you who've seen the movie The Manchurian Candidate, right?
Mm-hmm.
That media and all these techniques can be used to program someone's mind, to program someone to do things. And then it's just a matter of the right signals being hit, boom, they explode. And so we have to begin to get kids back outside shooting marbles and playing jackstones and doing jumping, hopscotch, and getting on the swings, and going hiking and camp, something to get them more in tune with a natural pace of life, a natural cycle of life that doesn't involve, I got to wear this makeup and that dress, I got to do this dance, and if I don't, I'm a failure.
Yeah. Yeah, as you're sharing that, I flashed on. It's a lot harder to kill yourself with a slingshot.
Yes.
I would venture it's maybe impossible to kill yourself with a slingshot. And when I was a kid, we had slingshots.
Yes.
My mom wasn't exactly thrilled about the fact that we had but we did. But we didn't have, and it was unusual. You didn't have the easy access to guns that you do today, and you didn't have. Interestingly enough, I just saw another article. Kyle Rittenhouse is back in the news. The gentleman that gave him the gun has been charged, and from all indications is going to be found guilty of giving that weapon to a minor. Now, it might be a little difficult to figure out, but let's trace that gun. Let's trace the ownership of that gun. Let's find out where it came from. Who sold it? Who'd they sell it to? Okay, you're on record as having bought this weapon at this store at this time. Who'd you give it to? Right? Who gave it to them? I don't believe that you just lost it. I don't believe you just left it sitting in a car and forgot about it. Somebody else found it. You gave that. Somebody handed that man that gun, that young man that gun. He didn't just find that sitting on the school bench. So something. Let's trace that back. Let's start holding people responsible. If we can't stop the sale of these guns, let's at least get them registered and start following them around the country, so we have some idea where they originated and some way of tracing back how they got into these kids' hands.
And if we can create open AI and chat bots and all these other, we should be able to track some data. I mean, we got enough tools to track this data. You should be able to go with the chat bots and say, who owns gun 254-567? Give me the history of that record. Boom.
Yeah.
I mean, common people, but law enforcement and people who regulate that industry should be able to just give the AI a number, and it goes and find all the information about that. Yep. So oh, you told me to gun was stolen. You never reported it. I don't believe it was stolen. I mean, if you have a gun that's stolen, that needs to be reported.
And therefore, you didn't report it. Now we're going to charge you for not reporting a stolen weapon. You're right, Z. I hadn't thought about it in that terms. I'm pretty sure YouTube knows every single video I've watched on their platform for the last 20 years or however long it's been around, right? They know. They got that data is somewhere. That's sitting on a server in the middle of the Utah desert somewhere. So let's start using the technology we have to support our youth, to support our kids, rather than leave them out there as prey for big tech and gun manufacturers and drug pushers and every other thing that's happening that is killing our kids.
And here's another interesting tidbit, right? One of the biggest areas in education now, higher education now, is big data, right?
Right.
And you know why they got big data? Because they got a truckload of data on everybody and everything, and right now they have so much data they can't comb through it humanly, which spawns the creation and the use of AI. That's what if we start looking at why this AI is really coming out, is looking at how do we comb all this. Imagine everybody that's doing cancer research for how many years around the world that have been doing stuff somewhat in isolation. Now you get a AI that can say, go find me all treatments for cancer. Give me all experiments with cancer drugs. Sooner or later, it will comb together some data that will be promising. right?
Yeah.
And they'll do the same thing on somebody if they say, "Go get me all the negative stuff on Donald Trump. Go get me all the positive stuff on Donald Trump," right? Because it's out there, and we can't put it all together, but that AI can. So this big data search and this big data field is going to be massive, and it's going to have all kinds of implications of what can and cannot happen. And what it's going to come down to is the spiritual consciousness of the people who are using this data and using these tools. And so, that's what we really have to begin. How do we cultivate honest people? How do we cultivate people who are looking at humanity in a way to uplift it as opposed to tear it down?
And I think I have an answer. We have to flood the internet with positive content, with positive comments, not tearing people down. We have to flood the internet with visits to positive websites.
Mm-hmm.
Don't, right? Rather than follow the sensational story down the rabbit hole to whatever, rather use these tools, use the tool we have, the internet, the computers in front of us, and consistently upvote. I sound hip now, don't I? I said upvote. And upvote the positive that you see in the world and on the internet, and block the stuff that isn't.
Yeah.
If you find a website that is just spreading rumors and lies and fear, block them. Report it. Don't use it. Don't visit that. Mm-hmm. Let the big data companies, let these big tech companies know this is what I want to see. Because if you spend a half an hour watching car crash videos on YouTube, guess what they're going to show you? More car crash videos. If you spend an hour watching New Thought Media Network on YouTube, they're going to show you more of our programming. If you go out and find and there's a ton of great channels out there that are sharing positive, inspirational messages and perspectives on life, follow those guys.
Yeah.
Go into your YouTube and unsubscribe from all those channels that aren't giving you what you want, and let the algorithm, it's not even YouTube, it's not a person, let the algorithms, let the AI know this is what we want more of, and we'll get more of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't say any more to that, but amen.
Well, that's okay, because we're about out of time. So, folks, if you like anything you've heard here today, please do give us a thumbs up, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. Let the AI know you want more of this. If you have a topic you'd like us to discuss, please, by all means, send us an email, ministertalk@ntmedia.org. Our dear friend over in Geneva, Fiona, has a great suggestion. Instead of a dark web, let's create a light web. Exactly. This is already a web of love and light, and it's already light signals. Let's just light workers unite. Exactly. The time has come, I believe, folks, to really let it be known that there is a power for good in this universe, that it is our very nature, that we can use that to create a world that works for all, rather than a world that works for the rich and the powerful and those with the most guns.
That's the challenge, but we can do it.
And we can do it.
We can do it.
All right, we're going to get out of here for now, folks. Thanks for joining us. A couple things happening here on the New Thought Media Network we really want you to know about. First and foremost, later this evening, we're doing a house concert from, my house. You can see my living room right now. It's a new stage up there. So by all means, please join us this evening. That's going to happen at 7 o'clock Mountain Time. You can tune in on our YouTube channel only. This is only available on our YouTube channel. However, if you are in the Denver area and you'd like to come on out and hang out with some New Thought Media Network folks in person and our guests here this evening, please just send us a DM, send a private message. We'll get you the address and get you an invite. Plus, there's good food and beverages all stacked up in the kitchen waiting for everybody. So we would love to have you join us here this evening. It is a normal day of programming here on New Thought Media Network. So Sekou Writes and Be Your Own Hero is up next. Morning prayers at 8:15. Morning sip with Rev Melissa at 8:30. 9 o'clock is our 40-day explorations with Emma Moreno. It's a great program, 50% English, 50% Spanish. So if you're learning Spanish, it's a great place to hang out. You might be like me and not really understand anything, but then you start to put it together when you hear the English version afterwards. So also today, Practicing Infinite Possibilities with Lindsay Leinbach is at 10 o'clock Mountain Time. We have the Joy Show with Reverend Barbara at 1 o'clock. The Good News at 5, and Reverend Barbara is sitting in for me tonight on the Good News. So check her out and check out that show. Plus the Fireside Chat at 6 with Reverend Michael. And again, our concert with Gary Lynn Floyd, one night only, live from Arvada, Colorado, here tonight, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Please tune in over on our YouTube channel for that. Z, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
My final thought is let's become critical thinkers so we can make better choices.
Yeah, I like that. Mine, talk with your kids. Give them a hug. Let them know they're loved. Pat them down for guns if you have to. But my sense is this young man here, Lyle, I got a feeling that there was troubles in the home. Is all I can say. You can just feel it intuitively. So love your kids. And if you see a kid that's not being loved, well, maybe give them a thumbs up and let them know that life's going to be okay. It's all going to work out. We're a couple of ministers talking shit. Thanks for being with us. If you'd like more of this content, please consider dropping a donation over in the donation box, newthoughtmedia.org/donate. We'll be back again next Friday. Until then, we wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.